1 ऊंची PM. Your phone is still in your hand. Your eyes are tired, but your brain refuses to shut down. You tell yourself, just 10 more minutes. But you don't know this. Right now, inside your body, a countdown has already begun. A clock that is quietly rewriting your hormones, minute by minute. Shutting down your liver's repair cycle. Sending a direct order to your fat cells. Store everything. Burn nothing. And the scariest part, you don't feel any of it happening. Because this process runs so silently that by morning, all you notice is that you're tired. While in reality, an entire biological war has already taken place inside you overnight. Today, we're going hour by hour, hormone by hormone, to find out exactly what happens when you don't fall asleep before midnight. And at the end, I'll tell you the exact time after which staying awake becomes more damaging than not sleeping at all. Let's begin. Before we go hour by hour, you need to understand one thing. Your body doesn't run on a 24-hour clock the way your phone does. It runs on something called the circadian rhythm, an internal biological clock that's been ticking since before you were born, synced not to the number on your screen, but to light, darkness, and a molecule called melatonin. Here's the twist most people don't know. Melatonin doesn't just help you fall asleep. It's one of the most powerful antioxidants your body produces. It repairs cell damage. It regulates your immune system. It even influences how your body processes sugar the next day. And melatonin has a schedule. It starts rising around sunset, peaks somewhere between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. and then tapers off toward morning. This means something critical. The repair window your body is designed to use, the deep hormone-driven repair window, doesn't wait for you. If you're still awake when it opens, you don't get a pause button. You just miss it. This is why two people who both sleep for 7 hours, one from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., another from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m., are not having the same experience internally. Same duration, completely different biology. Now let's walk through the clock. Hour 1, 9 p.m. The quiet shift begins at 9 p.m. Most people are still fully on, scrolling, watching TV, replying to messages. But inside your body, the lights are already starting to dim. Literally, your pineal gland, a tiny structure deep in your brain, starts sensing the drop in natural light exposure. Assuming you're not flooding your eyes with blue light, it begins converting serotonin into melatonin. Your core body temperature, which has been slightly elevated all day, starts to drop by about half a degree. This drop is not random. It's actually one of the triggers your brain uses to signal sleep is approaching. Meanwhile, your digestive system is winding down. Insulin sensitivity, how efficiently your body handles sugar, is at its evening peak right now. This is actually the best time of day for your body to process any last food, not 2 hours before you plan to sleep. If you're on your phone right now, here's what's happening. The blue light hitting your retina is signaling your brain that it's still daytime. Melatonin production, which should be climbing, gets suppressed by as much as 50%. You don't feel this yet, but the delay has already started. Hour 2, 10 p.m. The first hormonal window opens. This is where things start to matter. If you are asleep by 10 p.m., your body enters something researchers call the first repair cycle almost immediately. Growth hormone, yes, the same hormone responsible for muscle repair, fat metabolism, and cellular regeneration, begins its largest pulse of the entire day. About 70% of your daily growth hormone release happens in the first few hours of deep sleep, not randomly throughout the night. Concentrated right here, right at the start. Time to occur during the first deep sleep cycle, which typically falls in the 10 p.m. 1 a.m. window. If you are awake at 10 p.m., this pulse doesn't just get delayed, it can be blunted. Research on shift workers and delayed sleepers shows reduced amplitude of this hormone release, not just a shifted timing. Here's the practical effect. This is your body's primary fat-burning, muscle-repairing, skin-regenerating hormone. Every night you push past 10 p.m. awake, you're not just losing sleep, you're potentially reducing the total amount of repair your body does permanently for that day. It doesn't fully make up for it later. Meanwhile, your cortisol, the stress hormone, should be at its lowest point of the entire 24-hour cycle right now. If you're still awake, especially looking at a screen or engaged in something stimulating, cortisol doesn't drop the way it's supposed to. It plateaus. Sometimes it even ticks upward. This matters because cortisol and melatonin are biological opposites. When one is up, the other struggles to rise. Keep cortisol elevated at 10 p.m. and you're fighting your own biology to fall asleep later. 3. 11 p.m. The melatonin peak you're about to miss between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Melatonin hits its peak concentration in your bloodstream for most adults. If you're already asleep, your brain is now cycling through its deepest, slowest brainwave stage called slow wave sleep. This is the stage where your glymphatic system activates, a literal waste clearance system in your brain that flushes out metabolic byproducts, including a protein called beta-amyloid, which has been linked in research to long-term cognitive decline. When it builds up, think of it like this. Your brain has a nightly cleaning crew and their shift starts around 11 p.m. If you're not asleep, the crew doesn't clock in. If you're awake at 11 p.m., here's what's different. Your melatonin peak still happens. Light and darkness cues still drive it somewhat, but its efficiency is disrupted, especially if there's artificial light in the room. Studies on melatonin suppression show that even moderate indoor light exposure at this hour can reduce peak melatonin levels by 2%. This means when you eventually do fall asleep, say at 1 a.m. instead of 11 p.m., you're not just starting your sleep cycle 2 hours later. You're starting it with a weaker melatonin signal, which can reduce how deep your first sleep cycle actually goes for. Midnight, the liver's secret shift midnight, isn't just a symbolic marker. It's when your liver changes its entire operating mode. During the day, your liver is in processing mode, breaking down food, filtering toxins, managing blood sugar in response to meals. Around midnight, if you're asleep, it shifts into repair and detox mode. This is when a large portion of your liver's regenerative activity occurs, along with a nightly cycle of detoxification that relies on adequate deep sleep to run efficiently. Here's where it gets interesting. Your liver operates on its own mini circadian clock, separate from your brain's master clock, but synced to it. When you're regularly awake past midnight, these two clocks start to fall out of sync, a phenomenon researchers call circadian misalignment. Studies have linked this misalignment to impaired glucose metabolism and increased fat storage, even when total sleep duration and diet remain unchanged. This is one of the more surprising findings in modern sleep science. Two people eating identical diets can have different fat storage outcomes purely based on when they sleep, not just how long. If you're awake right now, scrolling or working, your liver is essentially confused, still partially in day mode, unable to fully transition into repair mode, waiting for a signal that isn't coming. Horrify, 1 a.m. Cortisol's quiet rise under normal conditions. Cortisol should still be near its lowest point, but if you're awake at 1 a.m., something starts to shift. Your body begins interpreting prolonged wakefulness during this window as a low-grade stress signal. This isn't dramatic. You won't feel stressed in the way you would during an argument, but blood studies on people who are awake during this window show a gradual, unnatural uptick in cortisol that shouldn't be happening yet. Why does this matter? Cortisol and blood sugar are directly linked. Elevated cortisol tells your liver to release stored glucose into your bloodstream, a survival mechanism meant not for late night scrolling. Over time, repeated late nights can train your body toward mild, chronic insulin resistance, even in people who otherwise eat well and exercise. Sleep researchers sometimes call this the silent metabolic tax of staying up late. It doesn't show up on a scale overnight, but it compounds. Hor 6. 2 a.m. The point of no good return. Here's the moment I promised to explain at the start. If you're still awake at 2 a.m., you've now missed almost the entire first deep sleep cycle, the one hosting the majority of your growth hormone release, your brain's cleaning cycle, and your liver's detox shift. But here's the part that surprises people. Even if you now go to sleep at 2 a.m. and sleep until 9 a.m., a full 7 hours, your body cannot simply shift the missed processes into this new window. Growth hormone release is tightly tied to the first 3 to 4 hours after sleep onset, regardless of what time that onset occurs. So you do still get a growth hormone pulse, but research suggests it's often smaller in amplitude when sleep onset is delayed past this point compared to earlier onset. Meanwhile, your natural cortisol's rise, which is supposed to begin gently around 6 a.m. to help you wake up, is now completely out of sync with your sleep cycle. You'll likely still be in deep sleep when cortisol starts climbing, meaning you'll wake up already behind on repair and already hormonally stressed. This is why people who consistently sleep from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. often report feeling more groggy than people who sleep 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. despite sleeping 2 fewer hours. Duration isn't the full story. Alignment is 4-7. 3 a.m. The immune system's night shift. Your immune system also runs on a nightly schedule. Certain immune cells, including T cells, show peak activity during early morning sleep hours, particularly in deep sleep stages. This is part of why chronic poor sleep is associated with higher rates of illness. It's not just feeling tired. It's a measurably less effective immune response at 3 a.m. If you're still awake, your body is essentially trying to run an immune tune-up without the conditions it needs to do so. Studies on sleep-deprived individuals show measurably reduced antibody response to vaccines and slower recovery from minor infections compared to well-rested individuals. Differences that show up even after a single night of significantly shortened or delayed sleep. You're 8. 4 a.m. The fat cycle by 4 a.m. If you're still awake, two hunger-related hormones, ghrelin and leptin, begin drifting out of balance. Ghrelin increases appetite, tends to rise, while leptin, which signals fullness, tends to drop in sleep-deprived states. This is one reason late-night wakefulness is so strongly linked to late-night snacking. It's not just boredom or habit. Your hormones are quite literally telling you that you're hungrier than you are and less likely to feel satisfied when you eat. Come a patient, calm this with the elevated cortisol from earlier hours. And you get a specific, well-documented pattern in sleep research. Cortisol drives blood sugar up. Insulin responds by pushing that sugar into storage, and disrupted leptin/ghrelin signaling pushes you toward more food intake. A combination that, over weeks and months of chronic late sleep, has been associated with increased fat storage, particularly visceral fat around the abdomen. Tede, age-regate effect. Why this compounds of these individual hours are catastrophic on their own. One late night won't reshape your body, but sleep researchers consistently emphasize that these effects compound. A blunted growth hormone pulse, repeated 5 nights a week, adds up to meaningfully reduced tissue repair over months. Elevated cortisol, even mildly, repeated regularly, nudges insulin resistance forward. Disrupted leptin and ghrelin, repeated regularly, shifts eating patterns gradually rather than dramatically. This is why the effects of chronic late sleep often show up not as a dramatic health event, but as a slow drift, slightly more stubborn fat around the midsection, slightly worse recovery from workouts, slightly more frequent colds, slightly foggier mornings. It's death by 1,000 small hormonal cuts, not one big one. So here's the honest answer to the question we started with. It's not that midnight is a magic number. It's that your body's most important repair processes are anchored to the first few hours after sleep onset. And for most people's natural circadian rhythm, that window opens somewhere between 9 p.m. and midnight. Sleep before that window closes and you catch the wave. Sleep after and you're swimming against hormones that have already started moving without you.